Right. Well, I would love to introduce our panelists for this conversation. And again, we have alumni here from who attended camp in 1987 all the way to 2011. So we'll just pass it off to the person who is to the right of me, Alexandra or Lexie, to introduce themselves.
Hi,
And if you
everyone.
can,
Yeah,
Mhm.
sorry. Let me
Yeah,
read
and you can just
myself.
share your name and your gender pronouns,
Yeah.
the year that you attended camp, and who were you then? Were you a a youth or a volunteer, a staff person? And then a little bit about who you are now.
Yeah. So, hi, everyone. My name's Lexie Wynn. My pronouns are she, hers. I attended camp in 2011. I was a senior in high school. I came on as a camper. I didn't know what to expect at all when I was coming on. And now, currently, a few years later, I also work for a nonprofit, and we share a very similar name to CCEJ, the California Council on Economic Education, CCEE, and I am proud to be the director of communications for that nonprofit currently.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alisa Orduña. I attended CAP, still trying to get the dates, but I'm pretty sure it was 87, 88. As a camper, returned as a youth leader. And after that, we just did some work in the community. Back then, we did mediation in high schools. Um, and the time that I came to camp, there was a lot of happening around gang violence at that time. And it was just camp was a safe place, particularly meeting young people across LA County. I was sharing in our group how like going to sports games sometimes were challenging, but through NCCJ, I always knew someone. And I don't know how we got in contact without cell phones, but we figured it out. And it was just a great way to connect with people. And I think this work has just been at the cornerstone, and really being able to embrace conflict, being uncomfortable and being uncomfortable or being comfortable with being uncomfortable in certain conditions. And that helps in my work. I work a lot in homelessness policy with our unhoused community and agencies and trying to bridge the gap and trying to reduce othering and prejudice that often is projected against our unhoused. And so utilizing a lot of the skills from NCCJ/CCEJ. And with that, I'll pass it over to Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Harmon. I use he, him pronouns. I attended camp as a high school junior in 1993 as a camper, and then returned to camp just last year as an adult volunteer for kind of a 30-year boomerang, and then today in life, I'm a software project manager in the travel business. So I don't really work in this space, but I love the fact that travel is one of the biggest bridges to breaking down barriers and prejudice in the world, is seeing and understanding how other people live on the daily, not just as vacationers, but in daily lives. And ever since camp, I've worked hard to try and bring the Brotherhood Sisterhood experience and now CCEJ experience into my workplace, especially because as a white male, I'm often invited into rooms that other people are not. And I try and bring my camp experience into those rooms with me.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing and just your time to just be storytellers this evening. And as our storytellers are sharing, I invite folks to share in the chat box and really kind of reminisce just alongside them. And I have 23 comments that I can't read right now, but I definitely will be reading very soon. But to get us started, and again, it's for anybody who wants to answer this first, just with our panel. What was or is the impact of camp on you?
So at the root of it, I mentioned this earlier. I had no idea what to expect when I first went to camp. I rolled up on a bus with my friends. We were laughing, joking. It was 2011. And I didn't know what to expect, but it's had a profound impact on me throughout my life, and my entire journey thus far. At the root of it, camp teaches us about bias and injustice and all of the isms. But really, for me, what I walked away with was understanding empathy and understanding empathy for others as well, and realizing that others have different perspectives and experiences outside of my own. And I think that that is something that has become foundational to who I am today and the career path that I've taken, but not just the career path that I've taken, but also everything that I do in my life, the conversations that I have, who I hope to exemplify, and the impact that I want to have on others. It's really been just instrumental to who I am today, truly.
Yeah, I think Lexi, what you're saying, the empathy part, so really resonates with me. And I just think in that it kind of, I wrote down the words visualize and validate it, like different experiences. You know, when I went, we did like the gender catwalk where, you know, the men had to walk through like a line of women and hearing cat calls and other whistles from kind of that gendered experience to both the racial affinity groups and gender affinity groups. And being able to, I remember, never forget, we kind of did this exercise around each racial group had to do the prioritization of other racial groups. And there was like a physical way that we sat, and just the weight of that, but also acknowledging it, naming it, being able to debrief about it, to raise awareness around this is how we're operating in our minds when we leave here, and particularly across culture, and even identify as African American, and even within our African American group, recognizing that we're not homogenous. We had biracial members, and allowing them to choose or not choose, you know, their racial identity. It just was such an awakening, and such like it just pulled off, not innocence because it was done well, where I felt like we were cared for, but it kind of pulled off like a storybook version, and it helped me to face some truths that I think I still continue today, and really leaning into difference. And I want to give a shout out. I saw Matt Gibson. We were campers together, as well as friends from high school together. So I saw him on the call, and he's on the East Coast now. So I'm so excited that he's here.
I'll jump in there. And camp was really amazing, and nothing that I expected when I went there, and incredibly shocking when I got there. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was white. And what I mean by that is that I recognized whiteness for the first time. I had always been one of those people that said, "Oh no, you know, I grew up in Santa Ana. I'm not racist." And and for the first time, I was really uh, forced to face, to like really recognize what it meant to walk around as a white person in the world, and especially as a male in the world, and that being non-racist is not enough, and that I really have to be an advocate for justice in everything that I say and I do, and especially because of the privileges that I have. And that week at camp was just so much growth. It's such an intense incubator, to bring that forward and bring that out. And one thing that I have to say about coming back to camp in 2023, and it just breaks my heart that there were no white campers. And I think about that experience that I had, and how we didn't have that experience for campers in this last year. And I think that the root cause might be because there are so many white kids out there that think just like I did in high school, that I'm not racist. I don't need to go to this. And on that, I'm going to hand it back to Trevor.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you all for sharing. That's yeah, I'm reminiscing on my experience at Gender Justice Camp, and really, yeah, having very similar feelings. So just from on day one, and not even understanding where to park my car from, from day three, kind of just watching young people really kind of shift their thinking and seeing those aha moments. So really appreciate you all for sharing. And my next question, is around how do you use the lessons learned from camp? And I've already heard this too, but if you want to expand on this, I would love to hear it. How do you use the lessons learned from camp in your daily life as an adult?
Um, you know, I mentioned it a little bit earlier about how in the workplace, I have a fairly corporate, work experience, and that's kind of been my life as an adult. And being in, certain rooms and recognizing that I have a certain amount of power, and how camp taught me to really dialogue in spaces, but most importantly, how to call people in to those spaces. And oftentimes I find myself in a room, and I might be, in a room with 8 other white men and a woman of color. And oftentimes, we love to take up that space. And so I found myself being intentional in those times of looking for that opportunity to call that person into that space who might not be, might be underrepresented in the room, and call them in. And sometimes it's just as simple as like, hey, what did you have to say about that? And basically claiming the space in a room in order to then hand it over to somebody who's underrepresented, who may not be comfortable claiming the space in that room. And those are all skills that, I learned at camp. Like without camp, I wouldn't have even thought of doing that, much less had the skills to be able to do it. I'm going to hand it over to Alisa.
I'm like, yes, all of I think dialogue, what you said, is such an important tool that I learned at camp. And also, when I think about the conversation that we've gone through, especially since the murder of George Floyd and alternative policing and movement toward abolition, I think the leadership development opportunities from camp really impacted me. Like I think about, we created, like through going through camp, it inspired in our own city. We created a youth council with our city council. We created like a midnight basketball league just to provide a safe place overnight for youth that, may be in the streets or may not be able to go home, or if home wasn't a safe place. I remember some through NCCJ and the youth leadership program, we would go into conflict situations. So if there had been an incident, like a shooting or something in a school, we would go in and have panels to be able to peer to peer talk to students. And I think that kind of emboldened me, I think, in my career, where it's like, don't ask for permission. When you see something, you create something, and you call people, not just call people in, but call people together and facilitate a dialogue so that it's not lingering and we're not leaving it left to the institutions that sometimes cause harm within our communities. And so I'm grateful for that. I don't know if it's a boost in confidence or just an unwritten permission, like just do it. This is what you're supposed to do. And that's something I appreciate. So Lexie.
Yeah, definitely. I think that going back to Ryan's point about calling people in or calling folks in, the tools and framework that I was taught at camp and continue to be taught at camp, as still going back as a volunteer, I learn new things all of the time, and I'm constantly learning. And with my my work, I think that calling folks in, helping folks understand those tools and language that haven't attended camp, right? So that I can help fellow colleagues challenge these institutional structures that sometimes disadvantage us, you know, and I just want to give kudos to Alisa and Ryan for their amazing work that they're describing here today from the lessons they learned at camp, because, you know, sometimes I think that you can feel very alone sometimes, and remembering that we all are here, even the folks not on the panel in the group chat that I'm reading, you know, I really, really appreciate just the effect that this camp has had on every individual's life, and the lessons that it's helped us to incorporate into our actions and behaviors every day.
Well, thank you so much, storytellers, for sharing. I really, really appreciated this time. And just feeling my heart is very full just listening to you all today. You know, and before I pass it back to Jesse, I'd love again for you, Lexie, Ryan, or Lisa, do you have any final thoughts to share with us before we close out this portion of our program?
I just have a plug, like each one reach out to one. I think it's so important as alumni, particularly in these times. Like, I don't know how we can come together and use that collective voice that we've been taught, but just offering, please call on us if there's advocacy or letter writings, or we just need to show up. You know, if I saw the invitation to the camp, volunteer opportunities or in other spaces, because I think we're ready and hungry and we have to pay it forward. So just wanted to offer that and just say thank you to the current staff and campers and all for continuing this tradition, and know that there's a strong team behind you that's here to support you.
Yeah, I really want to echo what Alisa said about paying it forward and paying it back. This last year, being able to come back as a volunteer and give back to camp, that's a 30-year boomerang for me. And being able to be in the same place, hearing such similar conversations and watching this growth of teens that I had been a teen and experienced it firsthand, and then to see that that work is still happening, and then to help in any way that I could, you know, to be a part of, you know, helping the next generation have those same skills that I was given. Like, I just can't express how amazing that was.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I want to thank whoever planted this for us to be here today. And then also, you know, thank ourselves for planting the seeds, because whatever has called us here tonight on this night, clearly it was powerful enough for us all to come back. And I think we all remember these visceral feelings. I do just want to close out really quickly, sharing very briefly an analogy that one of our co-directors, Chuck Barnes, shared with us one camp that I volunteered at. And it's something that I take with me each day. And I'm going to tell you in full honesty, I have been feeling so, I think it's the winter partly, but also just very down and out. And like I mentioned, alone, feeling like it's tough, right? And on one of the last days of camp, Chuck was our co-director, and he told this analogy about this work and how every day, you know, we're on some kind of escalator moving forward, and we're just on the escalator, right? And this work is challenging and it's not easy, but it's like going backwards and pushing against those folks on the escalator in a sense, and trying to get them to come with you too while you're going backwards. And I share that analogy because I think it's a reminder that, you know, we're all in this together. And like Alisa said, we're hungry. And I think that we're seeing a lot of injustice around us, and we want to find a way to channel our impact meaningfully. And this camp is one of those opportunities to do that, because it has ripple effects beyond just the camp, right? And so I just share that because if anybody else has been feeling down and out like I have, we're all in this together. And it's really one of my favorite analogies for this work. And thank you. That's all I have to share.
All right. Well, thank you.
And
Thank you
thank
so
you,
much,
Trevor.
Lexie. Yes, yes. Let's say thank you, Lexie, Ryan, and Alisa. Yeah, you know, I'm so inspired and motivated just about all that you shared. And I'm really looking forward to our next camp in March.